Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you're joining me from. My name is Dr. Obi Oramba Ibobeze, reaching you today from Nkolo Mahadum Wisdom University. Today's date is Afo, Market Day, in the 4th month of the Igbo lunar calendar called Onwa Ano. We are in the 4th month of the Igbo calendar called Onwa Ano, which actually began from April 23 and we end on May 20th. And in the Roman Catholic calendar, today's date is April 29th, 2025. Remember, at Nkolo Mahadum, we are here to decolonize your mind and free Africa from mental slavery and from European colonialism. Also, we encourage everyone following us to use their common sense, which we call akonuche in Igbo language. And we have maintained here that if other universities in other countries or other nations like United States, China, Japan, Russia, United Kingdom, France, Australia, Saudi Arabia, and others present information to you to protect their culture, their people, the same way we at Nkolo Mahadum Wisdom University will also present our lectures and informations to benefit the Igbo man and Africa in general. Therefore, we are asking you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, like our lectures, comment, and most importantly, share it to everyone so that all of us can be educated properly at the same time. As we have realized at Nkolo Mahadum that we were bestowed with colonial education. And that colonial education is actually what is setting us back, because they are not teaching us what we are supposed to know. And hence, the establishment of Nkolo Mahadum Wisdom University to educate Africans, to educate the Igbo man in the right information. And the title of today's lecture is Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has no case to answer after the invasion of his home and the illegal rendition to Nigeria from Kenya. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has no case to answer after the invasion by his home by the Nigerian military and the illegal rendition to Nigeria from Kenya. He doesn't have any case. Nigeria doesn't have no local standing. And before we continue, we have to give you a historical background. The historical background of Kanu's trial was the fact that he was arrested in Lagos on October 12, 2015, upon his return from the United Kingdom, the UK. Actually, he was arrested on October 12th, 2015, secretly, without letting everybody know. However, it was on October 14th, after IPOB have pressured the government, after the pressure exerted by indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, that made the government to declare that they actually arrested him, make it public on October 14, 2015. And since that time, he was being tried without being convicted because he has committed no crime. And on April 25, 2017, the court granted him bail on health grounds. And he went to his home in Afaruku, in Umuahia, in Abia State. And in his home, from his home, he was getting ready to attend his court case coming up in Abuja with 1 million men march. He was asking his followers to make sure they are up to 1 million to attend his upcoming case in Abuja. Then, surprisingly, on September 10, 2017, the Nigerian army invaded his home in Afaruku. Barely 24 hours after announcing its second phase of Operation Python Dance. The second Operation Python Dance in the southeast by the Nigerian army was when they invaded Kanu's home on September 10, 2017. And in that invasion, remember, it's an invasion. He was taken unaware. He was not notified. 28 people were murdered, including a dog called Jack, in that invasion of the Nigerian military in Kanu's home. Then luckily, Kanu was able to escape from that invasion. That is why every trial from 2015 should be null and void, because Kanu was getting ready for that trial. And then the invasion came back, which killed 28 people, destroyed so many properties, and Kanu escaped. So when you came to kill somebody who was getting ready for his court appearance and he escaped, it shows you don't have a good case. If you have a good case against him, you should have allowed him to attend that case that he was preparing to go to. But because the Nigerian government know that they don't have any case against him, that was why the army invaded his home before the court date. So that nullifies the Nigerian government's power to continue trying him of any charges in 2015, because he was ready to attend the trial. So since Nnamdi Kanu escaped, he was doing his thing abroad without no interference. But on June 29th, 2021, Kanu was in Kenya and was illegally renditioned from Kenya to Nigeria. And he remained in custody since that time up to today. And since his rendition on June 29, 2021, Justice Binta Nyako had been the one handling his case. There have been so many trials, so many court cases by Justice Binta Nyako without any conviction, because there's nothing to convict on, because there's no case to convict him on. And so Nnamdi Kanu later fired Justice Binta Nyako because she was just bringing him to the courtroom and getting him out without no conviction. And then Justice Binta Nyako withdrew, recused herself from the case. But in between the time Kanu was renditioned from Kenya, the Court of Appeal discharged Kanu on 10/13/2022. On October 13, 2022, the Court of Appeal of Nigeria discharged and acquitted Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. And also, in December 15, 2023, the Supreme Court also stated that the illegal rendition of Kanu from Kenya to Nigeria was a violation of Kanu's rights. However, just like we know how things happen in Nigeria and other African countries, the Supreme Court, instead of discharging Kanu, referred the case back to a lower court, to the Federal High Court, to start afresh from 2015. And that was why we had the court case of today under a new justice who took over from Justice Binta Nyako. And the name of that new justice is Justice James Omotosho. He is the one that was in charge of the case today, Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court, who adjourned the case to May 2nd, 2025, which is in the next few days. After the first witness brought by the prosecution, known as witness number PWAAA, presented his witness to the case. And surprisingly, the prosecution wanted the witness to be hidden, to be concealed somewhere. And the witness was wearing a mask. And we at Nkolomadu, we are asking, why should this witness wear a mask? Does it mean that the witness is not man enough? Does it mean that the federal government, Nigerian government, is not man enough to show the face of her witness in the court? So for the federal government to ask that their witness should be hidden somewhere and should be wearing a mask, we also tell you that the federal government don't have any case in this trial. And you know what the witness said? He said that when they came to arrest Kanu at Tulip Hotel, that they saw like microphone and other things that look like a radio station. He said it looked like a radio station. He doesn't say that it's a radio station. He said it looked like a radio station. And if it looked like a radio station, it's not a radio station. Because if it is a radio station, the witness would have said, yes, I saw a radio station. I also saw him broadcasting on that station. But none of this occurred. And so that's why we at Nkolomadu is also saying that the federal government has no local standing. And Nnamdi Kanu has no case to answer in this trial and should be released as soon as possible. Before we continue, we have to ask you again to please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. Like, comment, and share. Because at Nkolomadu, we are educating you the way you should be educated. We are presenting, packaging, and presenting our lectures from Igbo man and African perspectives. And the title of today's lecture is that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has no case to answer after the invasion of his home and the illegal rendition from Kenya to Nigeria. And we have given you a historical background that Kanu was arrested in Lagos on October 12th, but was made public after IPOB pressured the government, because the government was doing it in secret before. And then the government came and said it was on the 14th, October 14th, 2015, that they arrested him while he was returning from the United Kingdom. And since that 2015 to 2017, they could not convict Kanu because they don't have any case against him. And then that was why on April 25, 2017, the court granted Kanu bail based on health ground. But before this time, after he was granted bail, Kanu was preparing to attend the upcoming court case in Abuja with 1 million men. And his followers were ready. Everybody were being gathered. Then surprisingly, while he was getting ready to go to court, because he knows he has a case to win, on September 10, the Nigerian army invaded the home of Kanu. Invaded the home of Kanu in the second phase of Operation Python Dance 2 in the southeastern states. And 28 people and a dog named Jack was murdered in that invasion. And Kanu was lucky to escape. So that was why all the charges from 2015 is null and void, because he came to kill him. If you had a good case, if Nigeria have a good case against Kanu, why then would you be sending the military to come and kill him? So he was running for his life. He was very lucky to escape that assassination. And that was why when he escaped, he continued doing his things abroad until on June 29, 2021, when Kanu went to Kenya for a business. The Nigerian authorities, in collusion with the Kenyan people, illegally renditioned him from Kenya to Nigeria, and he has remained in custody from that time up to today. But there have been a lot of trial under Justice Binta Nyako, who have been handling the case without any conviction. Always they bring him in and throw him back to the DSS custody. They bring him to court, throw him in, because there's nothing to convict. And then finally, when Nnamdi Kanu gets, fed up with the game of Justice Binta Nyako, he rejected her from continuing the case on his behalf. And then Justice Binta Nyako rescued herself, withdrew herself from that case. And in between that period, the Court of Appeal on October 13, 2022, discharged and acquitted Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. He should have been released on that note. But he was not. But they sent him to the Supreme Court. And on 12/15/2023, the Supreme Court also said that the illegal rendition of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was a violation of his rights. But the Supreme Court reinstated the terrorism charges from 2015. And that is why we had this court date today to the Federal High Court, where the case started, where the case was supposed to have been taken care of in 2015. They went back to square one, now being chaired by Justice James Omotosho. And James Omotosho, after hearing from the first prosecution witness, adjourned the case to May 2nd, 2025. And the first prosecution witness, known as PWAAA, was concealed, was being hidden, and he wore a mask to cover his face, which means the federal government is already in jittery. The Nigerian government is they already know they will lose the case, because they don't want to put that witness in trouble. Because if they know, if the world know the face of that witness, and eventually the federal government loses that case, his life may be in danger. That's why they opted for the mask, which is uncalled for. It's uncalled for. And then that witness said that when they arrested Kanu in Tulip Hotel, Lagos, that in the room that it looked like they saw microphone, it looked like a radio station. He didn't say that it's a radio station, it looked like a radio station, which means he's not sure. And remember, Radio Biafra is registered in London, not in Lagos. It's registered in London, not in Lagos. And he didn't see him broadcasting. And you are not sure whether what you saw was a radio station. You say it looked like. So that tells us here at Nkola Mahadum that the federal government will lose in this case. And so, because we want to be keeping everything short, before we end this lecture, we are asking you to stand up and defend yourself against the marauding Fulani herdsmen terrorists who are killing people across Nigeria, across Igbo land, across Africa. The federal government is not defending you. Why not defend yourself? And with this, we shall bring into this lecture to an end. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a very, very good day. Thank you. Have a good one.